It's been 4 years since I walked through the doors of the lantern, and boy, I was nervous but made to feel welcome. I felt no one will get the way I feel, but I was so wrong, everyone did know. I didn't have to tell my story to anyone, but I felt everyone had their own journey, and that was okay to feel whatever you did. On a happy day or a sad day, it was just accepted. I've done courses in the lantern before, but this one has been challenging. Firstly, looking at Anne's piece of work to looking at 2 circles and string, thinking this will be interesting. Anne talked and I fell in love with her journey, her enthusiasm about her work. I was hooked. I started picking out my colours and loved it. There were yellows, browns, greens, and that was my choice. On completing my first circle and all the different stitches, I was thrilled. Compliments, boy, it made me feel great. Now the second circle was a different story. I had a bad day. Right into my weaving I did go. Reds, black, blacker than black, I started. 2 days later, what was I thinking about these colours? From my first lovely mellow circle to my second circle. It made me realise that colours do affect moods, but that's okay, it's natural. Thank you, Anne, and thank you to my classmates for making me feel so welcome, but most of all for accepting me as I am. Thank you to Karina and Ger for pushing up with me, and thank you to my daughter who gave me an amazing bracelet that says, "Don't look back, you're not going that way."
My first dance, it was in the early 70s. Myself and a few of my friends joined St. John's Ambulance. We felt we were the kids, as they used to say in Cork, going, recreating accident scenes for slips and trips, dressing the wounded and vital one, resuscitation, i.e. the kiss of life, and a dummy figure. The kiss part was most practiced after the first dance. They were called clingers at the time, and the records played smoothly. The rocky ones, ballroom of romance. My first dance was a fella called Ger, whom we nicknamed McLocks. He had curly hair and a nice smile. We went on dating for about 6 months or so. Some of our dates were going in the ambulance to competitions in Limerick. The first dances up were under the watchful eye of Dev, one of the officers, who would come across the floor wagging his finger saying, "There'll be none of that class of thing here. I mean, no funny business." He meant no snobs or close dancing.
He drove quietly up the long winding boreen with its wild thorny branches bashing off the car. Saoirse was only 7 years old. It was a hot summer evening in 1972. Saoirse sat paralysed to the seat, both afraid and anxious to move or talk. She had never been out of the convent gate since she was 4. She took notice of all the gadgets in the front of the car. The car suddenly came to a halt. Saoirse was mesmerised by this long whitewashed cottage with its small square-like windows. There were dogs, cats, hens and an enormous horse surrounding Saoirse. Saoirse began to weep uncontrollably. Biddy tried to comfort her and coax her out of the car gently, to no avail. Saoirse was terrified. Eventually, Biddy's father opened the back door of the car. Saoirse quickly huddled up against the opposite door. The father was a gently spoken man with kind blue eyes. He held out his big strong hand, and she nervously took hers in his. With gentle persuasion, she emerged meekly from the car. In the distance, she could hear mooing sounds and quackling sounds. This was all new and surreal for Saoirse. Her eyes darted apprehensively but eagerly at all the different creatures and big humans around her. 2 dogs surrounded her, sniffing frantically. Saoirse began to seize up, but the farmer hushed them away and guided her inside the cottage. She never encountered anything like this in her entire short life. The fireplace was huge with a big arch and had 2 peculiar-looking chairs on either side of the fire. Sugons, they called them. Holes on the side of the fireplace walls had inserts containing tea caddies, and big socks hung on the crane. A big black kettle hung over the fire, steam rising from the spout. No one fussed over her, which calmed her down. She took in her strange surroundings and immediately felt at ease. She got a sense of belonging for the first time. To be continued.
When I was a schoolboy, about 14 years old, my mother called me into the kitchen and said, "I found something in the bin in work today." It was a pie transistor. Unfortunately, it wasn't working. That weekend I brought it down to a TV and radio repair shop near town. The technician said he might be able to fix it and to return midweek, which I did. The technician was successful and I paid him about £2. On the way home I tuned into BBC Two. A fruity voice was reading the news. I was thrilled. All through my teens it was my window to the world and my best friend. Many's the night I would listen to the sport and then the music on Radio Luxembourg. In those days we only had one TV channel and my radio kept me close to world events. All this cost me €2. They said that the best things in life are free. Well, almost. I can't close without mentioning the breakfast show on BBC Two. It was hosted by Terry Wogan and it would give me the incentive to get out of bed. The radio lasted me 5 years and was the best gift and radio I ever had. When I was a schoolboy, about 14 years old, my mother